Hey guys, tonight we travel to the shimmering, sun-bleached sands of ancient Egypt, to the court of the most famous queen in all of history, Cleopatra. But forget the Hollywood glamour, the baths of milk, and the epic romances. We're going to explore the deeply dysfunctional, paranoid, and often bloody reality of the family she was born into, a family that made her one of the most formidable political survivors the world has ever seen. So, before you get comfortable, if you enjoy these quiet dives into the unglamorous side of history, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe. And as always, I'd love to know where you're listening from and what time it is in your corner of the world. Now, let's step into the sweltering, perfumed, and treacherous world of the Ptolemaic court and ease into tonight's journey together. Congratulations. You have been born into the royal palace at Alexandria around the year 69 BC. You are a princess of the Ptolemaic dynasty, a direct descendant of one of Alexander the Great's most brilliant generals. The good news, you are surrounded by unimaginable wealth, the world's greatest library is just down the road, and you are considered a living goddess by the Egyptian people you rule. The bad news, your closest relatives are statistically the people most likely to murder you. Your family tree does not branch so much as it loops back on itself in a series of tight, confusing, and often violent knots. Welcome to the family. This is the first great, inescapable burden of your existence. You are a Ptolemy. This is a major historical fact that shapes your entire world. You are not Egyptian. You are Greek. Your family, the Ptolemies, have been ruling Egypt for over 250 years, ever since the first Ptolemy, a general in Alexander's army, declared himself king after Alexander's death. You speak Greek, you are educated in Greek philosophy and rhetoric, and you live in the thoroughly Greek city of Alexandria. To the millions of native Egyptian people who farm the Nile, you are a foreign dynasty. You rule them by adopting their traditions, by presenting yourself as the rightful heir to the pharaohs, by declaring yourself a living incarnation of the goddess Isis. But you know, and everyone at court knows, that you are Macedonian Greek to the core. This duality creates a constant low-level tension. You must be a divine pharaoh to your people and a cunning Hellenistic monarch to the rest of the Mediterranean world. The second burden is even more intimate. It is the family tradition of sibling marriage. This is an obscure but defining feature of your dynasty. To keep the royal bloodline pure and to consolidate power, Ptolemaic rulers frequently marry their own brothers and sisters. Your own parents were likely first cousins or half-siblings. This practice, meant to mimic the unions of ancient Egyptian gods like Osiris and Isis, has a much more practical and grim side effect. It turns your family into a pressure cooker of ambition and paranoia. Your siblings are not your playmates. They are your future co-rulers, your spouses, and your most dangerous rivals for the throne. Whether the constant sibling rivalry and murder within the Ptolemaic court were driven by pure, cold-hearted political calculation or by deep-seated, genuine family hatred is a question best left to ancient psychologists. From where you sit, it looks like a healthy mix of both. You are a young girl, perhaps 10 or 11 years old, and you are learning the rules of survival in this gilded cage. You are given the finest education in the world. Tutors from the great library of Alexandria teach you rhetoric, mathematics, astronomy, and philosophy. You are a brilliant student, fluent in half a dozen languages, including, uniquely for your family, the Egyptian language of your subjects. This is to prepare you for your future role as a wise and just ruler. It is also to give you something to think about while you're hiding from your older sister, who may or may not be trying to poison your breakfast. Your father is Ptolemy XII, a man known to history by the unflattering nickname Aulets, the flute player, for his love of music and his general lack of political skill. He's a weak king, a puppet of Rome who keeps his throne only by paying massive bribes to Roman senators. You watch him navigate the treacherous court, a world of powerful eunuch advisors, scheming ministers, and resentful relatives. The palace is a beautiful place, filled with Greek art, Egyptian motifs, and the bright light of the Mediterranean sun. It is also a place where the primary form of political succession involves a knife in the dark, a vial of poison, and a public announcement that the previous ruler died peacefully in their sleep after eating a bad fig. You learn to be quiet, to be observant. You watch your two older sisters, Cleopatra VI and Berenice IV. You see the ambition in Berenice's eyes. She despises your father for his weakness, for his subservience to Rome. You hear the whispers in the corridors. You see the secret meetings between courtiers. You learn that in this family, power is a zero-sum game. For one sibling to rise, another must fall, often literally. You are not just a princess enjoying a life of luxury. You are a player in a deadly game, whether you want to be or not. Your intelligence is your greatest weapon. Your charm is your shield, and your ability to see the currents of betrayal before they pull you under is your only real hope of survival. This is your childhood, a world of immense privilege poisoned by the constant, quiet fear that the person who shares your blood is the most likely one to spill it.
You are now a teenager, perhaps 14 or 15 years old. The palace in Alexandria, once a gilded cage of childhood paranoia, has become an active political volcano. Your father, Ptolemy XII Alates, has made a series of disastrous political decisions. He has bled the treasury dry, paying off Roman senators to keep his shaky throne, levying heavy taxes on the people of Alexandria. His final mistake is allowing Rome to formally annex the island of Cyprus, a Ptolemaic territory, without a fight. For the proud, volatile citizens of Alexandria, this is the final humiliation. The city erupts. Riots break out. The mob, a powerful and fickle force in this city, calls for your father's head. Your father does not respond by gathering his army or crushing the rebellion. He responds by doing what he does best. He runs. Under the cover of night, he flees Alexandria, taking a ship not to another part of his kingdom to rally support, but to Rome, where he plans to complain to his creditors and take out even more massive loans to bribe his way back to power. You learn a valuable lesson that will define your entire life. Military might is good, but a well-placed bag of gold in the hands of a corrupt Roman senator is even better. He leaves the city, his kingdom, and his remaining children behind. In the power vacuum, your older sister, Berenice IV, seizes the throne. She did this while your father was out of town, which is the Ptolemaic equivalent of changing the locks while your roommate is on vacation. It is a bold move, and you are both terrified and deeply impressed. Suddenly, the sibling rivalry that was a whispered, venomous undercurrent in the palace is now the official state of politics. Your sister is now your queen, and you, along with your younger brother and sister, are her subjects and her prisoners. The extent to which you, the young Cleopatra, were actively involved in your father's exile or your sister's coup is unknown. Ancient sources focus on the main players, leaving you in the shadows, a quiet, observant girl learning from the brutal mistakes of your family. Your life in the palace changes overnight. You are no longer just a princess. You are the younger sister of a usurper queen. This puts you in a very delicate position. You must be supportive enough that Berenice doesn't see you as a threat, but quiet enough that she eventually forgets you exist. Your new hobby is becoming as interesting as a potted plant. You watch as she rules. She is popular with the Alexandrian mob, who see her as a true queen who stood up to Rome. But her position is weak. A female ruler without a male co-regent is an anomaly. Her advisors pressure her to marry to secure her throne. She marries one cousin, who she allegedly has strangled. She then marries another man, who proves to be incompetent. You watch her struggle with the same courtiers and eunuchs who once manipulated your father. You learn that sitting on the throne is not the same as holding on to power. You spend your days deep in your studies, a quiet, bookish girl in a corner of the palace. But you are not just reading philosophy. You are studying the anatomy of power. You watch Berenice make mistakes. She alienates potential allies. She fails to manage the economy. And most importantly, she underestimates the one force that truly matters: Rome. She believes the will of the Alexandrian people is enough to keep her safe. You know better. You know your father is in Rome right now, promising senators, generals, and bankers anything and everything if they will just restore him to his throne. You know that the real power in your world doesn't come from the blessing of the Egyptian gods, but from the pragmatic, unsentimental steel of the Roman legions. This is where the shadow of the future begins to fall. You understand that if your father returns, it will be with a foreign army at his back. He will not return as a beloved king, but as a conqueror of his own city. And you wonder what will happen to Berenice, your sister, the queen. The answer, you suspect, will be written in blood. A callback to the lessons of your childhood, you know that in the Ptolemaic dynasty, forgiveness is rare, but political necessity is absolute. You say nothing. You watch. You learn. And you wait. A quiet princess in a palace of treason, understanding that your own survival will depend not on your royal blood, but on your ability to play this deadly game better than anyone else.
3 years pass. 3 years of living as a quiet, watchful shadow in your sister's court. 3 years of studying, waiting, and learning how power is held and how it is lost. Then one day, the inevitable happens. Your father, Ptolemy XII Auletus, returns. He does not return with apologies or gifts for the people of Alexandria. He returns at the head of a Roman army, led by the proconsul of Syria, Aulus Gabinius. It is a family reunion with a significant and very menacing military escort. The city, which once rioted to expel him, is now cowed into a terrified silence by the sight of Roman legionaries marching through its streets. You have just learned your first lesson in international relations. The will of the people is loud, but the sound of thousands of hobnailed Roman sandals on stone pavement is louder. The restoration is swift and brutal. Your sister, Berenice IV, the ruling queen, is immediately arrested. She is charged with the crime of ruling while father was away, which is a very serious offense in the Ptolemaic legal system, especially when the ruling was better received than your father's. The punishment is, as you secretly expected, a swift and efficient execution. There is no trial, there is no appeal. One day she is the queen, the next she is a ghost. Family counseling has not yet been invented in your dynasty. Whether you, Cleopatra, felt any grief for your executed sister, a companion of your childhood, or if you simply saw it as a necessary and predictable political maneuver that removed a key rival from the board, is a secret your own later writings will never reveal. What is certain is that you learn the ultimate lesson of your family. The throne has room for only one. Any sibling is simply a temporary obstacle. With Berenice gone, you are now the eldest surviving daughter. You are about 14 years old, and you are suddenly elevated to a position of immense prominence and immense danger. Your father, now little more than a puppet king, is completely beholden to his Roman backers. He owes them a fortune for restoring him to power, a debt he will squeeze from the Egyptian countryside. And to ensure his continued safety, a portion of the Roman force is left behind in Alexandria. These soldiers, who become known as the Gabiniani, are a permanent fixture in the city, a swaggering, often unruly reminder of who is truly in charge. They are your father's bodyguards and his jailers. It is during this time that you likely see him for the first time. He is a young Roman cavalry commander, an officer serving under Gabinius. He is handsome, charismatic, and carries himself with an arrogant swagger that is typical of the Roman martial elite. His name is Marcus Antonius, or Mark Antony. You probably don't think much of him at the time, just another brash Roman soldier, one of the many foreign swords that now props up your father's throne. It's funny how history works. This man, a minor character in the drama of your father's restoration, will one day become a central figure in your own. But for now, he is just part of the scenery of Roman occupation. Your father, his power now secure, officially declares you and your younger brother, Ptolemy XIII Auletus, as his co-heirs. You are brought out before the court. You are no longer the quiet girl reading in the library. You are now Cleopatra VII, future Queen of Egypt, a designated player in the game. This is not a triumph. It is a death sentence with a delayed execution date. You know that upon your father's death, you will be forced to marry your brother, a boy who is younger, weaker, and whom you already despise, and rule alongside him. A callback to the family tradition that destroyed your sister, this is now your prescribed fate. You understand the cold, hard calculus of your world now. Your sister Berenice failed because she relied on the support of the Alexandrian people and defied Rome. Your father succeeded because he abandoned his people and mortgaged his kingdom to Rome. The lesson is clear and brutal. The path to power in Egypt no longer runs through the hearts of the Egyptian people, but through the political backrooms of the Roman Senate. You spend the remaining years of your father's reign watching, learning, and mastering this new reality. You learn to speak the language of power, not just Greek and Egyptian, but the language of Roman politics. You study the names of the powerful senators, the generals, the factions. You watch how they are played, how they are bribed. You are preparing for the inevitable. You are preparing for the day your father dies, and your brother, your co-heir and future husband, becomes your first and most dangerous enemy.
Your father, the flute player, finally dies. It is the year 51 BC, and you are 18 years old. His will, which was conveniently registered in Rome, is read aloud. Just as you feared, you are now Queen of Egypt. But you are not to rule alone. You are to share the throne with your co-heir and younger brother, the 10-year-old Ptolemy XIII. And to seal this political arrangement, you must marry him. This is a domestic and political situation that is deeply unsettling and makes family dinners incredibly awkward. Your primary political challenge is now a small boy whose main interests are playing with his miniature soldiers and having his powerful advisors tell him exactly how and why he should hate you. At first, you hold the upper hand. You are smarter, older, and more charismatic. You are the senior ruler, and you make sure everyone knows it. Your face appears alone on the coinage, and official documents are dated only by your regnal year, ignoring your brother completely. You are popular with the people of Alexandria, in part because you were the first Ptolemaic ruler in generations to bother learning the Egyptian language. But you have inherited a kingdom in crisis. A callback to your father's poor management, the treasury is nearly empty. And to make matters worse, the lifeblood of Egypt, the River Nile, decides not to flood properly for 2 years straight. This is a devastating historical fact that dictates everything. A low flood means a poor harvest, which means famine, which means riots in the streets. The people are starving, and they need someone to blame. This is the opportunity your enemies have been waiting for, and your enemies are not in a foreign land. They are in the room next door. While you are the queen, your young brother-husband is controlled by a cabal of his powerful guardians. This is the great historical fact of your early reign. You are not fighting your brother, you are fighting his keepers. The first is Pothinus, a eunuch and your brother's chief financial advisor, a man with a genius for palace intrigue and a deep distrust of you. The second is Achillas, the general of the army, a brutish but effective soldier who commands the loyalty of the troops. The third is Theodotus of Chios, your brother's rhetoric tutor, a man who can twist words into weapons. They are like the evil stepmothers from a fairy tale, except they have an army and control the national treasury. Their primary goal is to rule Egypt through the puppet boy king, and to do that, they must remove you. The precise details of your early power struggles with these regions are murky, pieced together from later, often hostile Roman sources. How you attempted to outmaneuver them and what specific acts of defiance led to your eventual exile were part of a silent, vicious palace war that left few written records. They used the famine to their advantage, whispering to the public in the court that the failed harvest is a sign that the gods are displeased with a female ruler. They used their influence on your brother to turn him against you, filling his head with stories of your ambition and arrogance. They control the army, including the volatile Roman Gardeniani soldiers left behind by your father's restorers, a callback to the ever-present threat of Roman interference. Every decree you make is subtly undermined. Every ally you try to make is threatened or bought off. You are the queen, but you are a prisoner in your own palace. You have the title, but they have the power. You are surrounded by smiling faces and sharp knives. You understand that you cannot win this fight from within the palace walls. They control the narrative, they control the army, and they control the king. The political situation becomes untenable. The pressure builds until finally, in approximately 48 BC, they make their move. Pothinus and Achillas formally strip you of your power and drive you out of Alexandria. You are forced to flee for your life, escaping into the deserts of Syria to the east. You are now a queen in exile. You have lost your throne, your city, and your kingdom, all stolen from you by your own brother and his advisors. You are 21 years old. For most people, this would be the end of the story. You would live out your days as a forgotten royal refugee, a footnote in the history of your dynasty. But you are not most people. You are a Ptolemy, and you have learned the two great lessons of your family. Never, ever give up the throne, and the only way to get it back is with a bigger, better army. In the harsh, unforgiving desert, you do not despair. You begin to plot. You use what little wealth you have to raise your own mercenary army. You begin the long, dangerous game of clawing your way back to power. You are no longer the quiet, observant girl. You are a queen at war. You spend months in the harsh deserts of Syria, a queen without a kingdom. You are not idle. You are a Ptolemy, and political survival is your birthright. You use your remaining personal wealth and your family connections to raise a respectable mercenary army. You are preparing to march back to Egypt to wage a civil war against your own brother. It is a desperate, dangerous plan. But while you are busy trying to reclaim your small corner of the world, the two most powerful men in Rome, Pompey the Great and Julius Caesar, are having a much larger, more impressive civil war of their own. You are about to discover that when Roman warlords have a disagreement, it tends to become everyone else's problem, very quickly. The news arrives like a thunderclap, carried by panicked messengers across the desert. Caesar has crushed Pompey's forces at the Battle of Pharsalus in Greece. Pompey the Great, the celebrated general, the former ally of your father, is now a fugitive, fleeing for his life. And he is sailing for Egypt. He is coming to Alexandria to seek sanctuary and rally support, expecting a warm welcome from the son of the king he once helped. Your brother's advisors in the palace are now faced with a terrible choice. Do they grant refuge to a defeated Roman general and incur the wrath of the victorious Caesar, who is in hot pursuit? Or do they betray their old ally to win favor with the new master of the Roman world? They choose a third option, one of spectacular and catastrophic stupidity. When Pompey's ship arrives at Alexandria, your brother's regents, Pothinus and Achillas, send out a small boat to greet him. As Pompey steps ashore, he is stabbed to death. His head is cut off and preserved in brine. His body is left on the beach. They have decided the best way to welcome this famous Roman general is to murder him and present his head to Caesar as a thoughtful welcome gift. It is a bold diplomatic strategy that will immediately and disastrously backfire. A few days later, Caesar arrives in Alexandria with his own fleet and a small contingent of soldiers. He is presented with Pompey's head.
Whether Caesar was genuinely shocked and disgusted by the murder of his former son-in-law and greatest rival, or if he was secretly relieved that his enemies had done his dirty work for him, is a question historians see through the lens of Caesar's own carefully crafted public image. What is certain is that he plays the part of the outraged victor perfectly. He weeps for Pompey and shows open contempt for your brother and his scheming advisors. You are watching all of this from a distance, with your army camped near the Egyptian border. You see the situation with perfect clarity. Your brother has made a fatal miscalculation. Caesar is now in your palace, the de facto ruler of your city. Your own small civil war has just been swallowed by a much larger one. You cannot defeat Caesar's veteran legions with your ragtag mercenary army. You cannot win your throne back by force. This is a callback to the great lesson of your youth. Power flows from Rome. Your father bought his throne back with bribes. You do not have that kind of money. You have only one asset left: yourself. You must get to Caesar. You must plead your case directly to him, bypassing your brother and his keepers entirely. But how? The palace is on lockdown. Your brother's general, Achilles, has surrounded it with his army, effectively trapping Caesar inside, while also keeping you out. You cannot fight your way in. So you come up with a plan that is either an act of tactical genius or suicidal insanity. You decide to have yourself smuggled into the palace. The story, told by the historian Plutarch, has become legendary. You travel by a small boat to the harbor of Alexandria under the cover of darkness. There your loyal attendant, Apollodorus the Sicilian, wraps you tightly in a roll of bedding or a laundry sack. The historical object is likely a humble bag, not a luxurious carpet. He throws the sack over his shoulder and, pretending to be a simple petitioner with a gift, walks right through your brother's checkpoints and into the palace. He carries you all the way to Caesar's private chambers. There, in front of the most powerful man in the world, he unrolls the sack and you emerge. Disheveled, probably covered in lint, but alive, defiant, and completely unexpected. You have just performed the most audacious political act of your life. You have bypassed armies and advisors. You have used your enemy's own security cordon as your delivery system. And you now stand before Julius Caesar not as a defeated exile, but as a queen who has risked everything for a single private audience. The game is no longer in the hands of Pothinos and Achilles. It is now between you and Caesar, and you are finally in a position to play.
The bedding sack is unrolled, and you emerge onto the floor of Julius Caesar's private chambers in the Alexandrian palace. You have just been unceremoniously dumped out like a pile of laundry. You are probably covered in dust, and your hair is a mess. It is not the most glamorous entrance for a queen, but it is certainly memorable. Caesar, a man who has conquered Gaul, defied the Senate, and seen everything the world has to offer, is, for the first time in a very long time, genuinely surprised. Standing before him is not the defeated, exiled woman he was expecting, but a queen who has just proven herself to be intelligent, audacious, and incredibly resourceful. The game has changed. This is where the legend of your romance begins. But the reality is far more pragmatic. This is not a meeting of star-crossed lovers. It is a high-stakes job interview. This is the great historical fact of your alliance. It was born of mutual necessity. You need Caesar's army to win back your throne. And Caesar, a man famous for his immense ambition and even more immense debts, needs your kingdom's colossal wealth to pay for his civil war and secure his position in Rome. Whether your famous love affair was also a genuine passion or was primarily a calculated political partnership is a question that has fueled speculation for 2 millennia. Their motivations were likely as tangled as the politics of Alexandria itself. But in this first meeting, you are not trying to seduce a lover, you are trying to win over an investor. You speak to him in flawless Greek, the language of his own educated class. You do that plead for his help, you present a case. You lay out the treachery of your brother's advisors, their incompetence, their murder of Pompey, an act which you point out was a grave insult to Roman dignity, and their hostility to Rome. Then you present yourself as the alternative, a stable, intelligent, and most importantly, pro-Roman ruler who can guarantee that Egypt remains a reliable client state and, crucially, that its grain shipments continue to flow to Rome. You are not offering him a romance. You are offering him a solution to his Egyptian problem, and you are offering him the key to the richest treasury in the Mediterranean. Caesar, an obscure but important detail about his character, was always a brilliant judge of talent and a pragmatist. He recognized in you not a damsel in distress, but a political operator as cunning and ambitious as he was. He agrees to support you. He convenes a meeting and, using his authority as the representative of Rome, declares that according to your father's will, you and your brother Ptolemy XIII shall rule together as joint monarchs. This, of course, is a declaration of war against your brother's faction. Pothinus and Achillas are not about to give up their power. They know that with Caesar on your side, their influence over the boy king is meaningless. So they unleash the Egyptian army on Caesar's small Roman force. Congratulations, you have won the support of the most powerful man in the world. As a result, you are now both trapped in the palace district with his few thousand soldiers, surrounded by the entire 20,000-strong Egyptian army, which is trying very hard to kill you both. It seems your plan for a triumphant return to power has a few logistical hiccups. The siege of Alexandria begins. For the next several months, the palace becomes a fortress. The sounds of the city are replaced by the sounds of war, the shouts of soldiers, the clang of steel, the thud of catapult stones against the walls. Caesar, ever the brilliant general, organizes a desperate defense. He orders the Egyptian fleet in the harbor to be set ablaze to prevent them from being used against him. The fire spreads, a callback to your family's flair for dramatic destruction, and accidentally burns a portion of the great library of Alexandria, a catastrophic loss of ancient knowledge. You are no longer just a petitioner. You are now in the heart of a war zone, living day and night with Julius Caesar. Your relationship is forged in this crucible of fear and desperation. You share meals between strategy sessions. You discuss philosophy while barricading doors. You are two political animals trapped in the same cage, fighting for survival. This is the reality of your great romance. It is not a story of moonlit walks along the Nile. It is a story of shared danger, of intellectual partnership, and of a pragmatic alliance that blossomed amidst the chaos of urban warfare. You have won your Roman champion, but now you must survive the war that comes with him.
You spend the next several months of your life as a queen under siege. The beautiful marble palace of Alexandria, your childhood home, becomes your fortress and your prison. The days are a monotonous grind of terror and strategy. You spend your time with Caesar not in romantic bliss but in tense war councils, planning defenses, managing dwindling food supplies, and trying to predict the enemy's next move. The sounds of your city are no longer the bustling hum of commerce, but the constant, unnerving clang of steel, the shouts of fighting in the streets, and the thud of catapult stones against the palace walls. The beautiful mosaics are now covered in dust and blood, and the quiet gardens are used for emergency archery practice. It's a very stressful home renovation project. As if being at war with your brother isn't enough, you learn that your younger sister, Arsinoe, showing remarkable family initiative, has escaped from the palace. She has joined the enemy army under the general Achillas and has had herself declared queen by the soldiers. You are now officially fighting a civil war against one brother and one sister. Ptolemaic family gatherings are definitively canceled this year. Arsinoe proves to be a surprisingly effective figurehead, a new symbol for the forces who want you and your Roman lover out of Egypt. The war becomes even bitter, a true family affair fought street by street through the magnificent city your ancestors built. But your great gamble, your alliance with Caesar, finally pays off. After months of desperate fighting, a Roman relief army arrives, marching overland from Syria. Caesar, a military genius in his element, breaks out of the palace with his legions, joins the relief force, and confronts the combined army of your siblings at the Battle of the Nile in 47 BC. You remain in the palace, a queen waiting for her fate to be decided by others, a callback to your powerless observation of your sister Berenice's reign. The news comes back in waves. The battle is fierce. The Egyptian army, though large, is no match for the disciplined tactics of Caesar's veteran legions. The enemy line breaks. The battle turns into a rout. In the chaos, your brother and husband, Ptolemy XIII, a boy of no more than 13, tries to escape across the river on a boat. The boat, overloaded with fleeing soldiers, capsizes. Weighed down by his own fancy golden armor, the boy king disappears beneath the muddy waters of the Nile and drowns. It is a deeply tragic and satisfactorily ironic end. You have won the throne not through a final, clever political maneuver, but because your primary rival was bad at swimming. The details of his death are, of course, convenient for your and Caesar's narrative. Whether he truly drowned by accident or was captured and quietly eliminated by Roman soldiers is a question that the victors have no interest in clarifying. With your brother dead and his army scattered, the war is over. Your sister Arsinoe is captured. You are brought forth by Caesar and presented to the people of Alexandria as their undisputed queen. You have won. You have your throne. But this is another reason it sucks to be you. Your crown is cemented in place by the corpse of your own brother. You have now participated in the great Ptolemaic tradition of sibling elimination, a callback to the execution of your sister Berenice that you witnessed as a girl. You once feared your siblings as rivals. Now, you have become the thing you feared. You are the survivor, the one who was ruthless enough, or perhaps just lucky enough to be the last one standing. Caesar, the practical Roman, now has a new problem. A sole female ruler is still considered unstable, and Rome cannot afford instability in its primary breadbasket. So he makes a decision for you. You will not rule alone, you must uphold tradition. You are to be married to your other, even younger brother, Ptolemy XIV, who is about 11 years old. You are crowned alongside him in a grand ceremony. You are once again shackled to a child co-regent, another puppet king to manage, another potential rival to watch for the rest of his life. Your great victory has simply reset the game. You have won everything, and yet nothing has changed. You are still a queen in a cage, only now the bars are made of Roman steel, and you hold the key yourself.
You are, at last, the undisputed queen of Egypt. Your brother is dead, your rebellious sister is in chains, and your throne is secured by the legions of Rome. To celebrate your joint victory and to reintroduce you to your people, Caesar suggests a relaxing river cruise. This is not a simple holiday. It is a 2-month-long, magnificent state procession up the Nile on an enormous, luxurious barge. It is a carefully calculated propaganda tour designed to display the power of Rome and the legitimacy of its chosen queen, reminding the Egyptian people that their living goddess is now under new, very Roman management. The royal court becomes a mobile entity, a floating city of servants, guards, and officials, gliding south to awe the towns and temples along the river. For these 2 months, you experience a life of almost unimaginable luxury and relative peace. You drift past ancient temples and bustling villages.
You and Caesar spend your days in conversation, discussing philosophy, politics, and the histories of your two great civilizations. You are not just his lover, you are his intellectual equal, one of the few people in the world who can match his quick mind. It is a period of genuine connection, a strange, calm eye in the hurricane of your life. But you're acutely aware that this peace is an illusion. You are the Queen of Egypt, worshipped as Isis reborn, your power seemingly absolute. Except it is entirely dependent on the health and continued success of this middle-aged Roman politician who is currently taking a victory lap, but has a worrying number of powerful enemies back in Rome who are very fond of knives. Shortly after Caesar finally departs from Egypt to continue mopping up the remnants of his civil war, you give birth to a son. This is a moment of supreme personal and political triumph. You name him Ptolemy Caesar, but he will be known to the world by his nickname, Caesarion, or Little Caesar. It is not a subtle name. You have just created a living, breathing political statement, an heir who is half pharaoh, half Roman dictator. This boy is your ultimate trump card. He is the physical proof of your alliance with Rome's most powerful man. In your mind, he is the potential future ruler of a combined Roman-Egyptian empire. This makes him both the most important child in the world and the #1 target for every ambitious person in Rome, a city that is pathologically terrified of kings and queens. Whether Caesar ever formally acknowledged Caesarion as his biological son is a point of major historical contention. He allowed the boy to use his name, a significant gesture, but in his official will, he would later name his grandnephew, Octavian, as his adopted son and primary heir. This left your son, Caesarion, in a powerful but dangerously ambiguous position. He was a symbol of your connection to Caesar, but without the legal protection of being his designated Roman heir. You now hold a new and terrifying burden. It is not just your own survival you must worry about, but the survival of your child. The boy is a walking provocation to your enemies in Alexandria, who see him as the symbol of your subservience to a foreign power. More importantly, he is a mortal threat to Caesar's rivals in Rome. As long as Caesar lives, you and your son are protected. But you are a student of history. You know that no man's life is secure, especially not the life of a dictator who has dismantled his city's republic. You spend your time consolidating your rule in Egypt, but your gaze is always fixed on Rome. You are no longer just the Queen of Egypt. You are now a player in the brutal, high-stakes game of Roman politics. Your fate and the fate of your son are now permanently welded to the chaotic and violent world of a distant city. Your victory in the Alexandrian War did not free you. It has simply locked you into a much larger, more dangerous cage. The gilded cage of your youth in the palace has expanded to encompass the entire Mediterranean, but it is a cage nonetheless, and its bars are forged in Rome.
You have ruled Egypt for 2 years in a fragile peace, with your silent 11-year-old brother-husband as your royal shadow. Your son, Caesarion, is a toddler, but your focus is not on your own kingdom. It is on Rome, where your lover and protector, Julius Caesar, is at the apex of his power. In 46 BC, he summons you. This is not a personal invitation, it is a political command. You are to come to Rome. The official reason is to formalize the alliance between Rome and Egypt. The unofficial reason is that Caesar wants to show you off. You are his most glamorous, most exotic, and most powerful conquest, and he wants the Roman people to see what he has won. So you pack up your court, your servants, and your young son, and you sail for Rome. It is a journey into the heart of a city that both desires and despises you. You arrive in Rome and are housed not in the city itself, as it would be improper for a foreign monarch to reside within the city's sacred boundaries, but in Caesar's magnificent private villa across the Tiber River. This is another layer of the complicated Roman rules. You are a guest, but you are also kept at a polite arm's length. Your presence in Rome is a sensation and a scandal. This is a major historical fact of your visit. Rome was a deeply xenophobic and misogynistic society. They were fascinated by the wealth and ancient history of Egypt, but they were also deeply suspicious of foreign influence and pathologically terrified of powerful women. And you, Cleopatra, are the living embodiment of all three. You are a queen in a city that prides itself on having overthrown its kings 500 years ago. You are a woman of immense intelligence and political power in a society where a respectable woman's place is in the home, quietly making wool. You are a spectacle. The common people flock to catch a glimpse of you and your exotic entourage. The Roman aristocracy, however, views you with a mixture of awe, envy, and deep, simmering hatred. They see you not as an allied monarch, but as a foreign sorceress who has bewitched their great general. The great orator Cicero, a man whose letters provide us with a priceless, if deeply biased, insight into the period, writes of you with dripping contempt. He finds you arrogant and despises the fact that he is expected to pay his respects to you. He sees your presence as a sign of Caesar's moral decay, of his drift towards a kind of decadent Eastern-style monarchy. Your life in Rome is one of luxurious, suffocating isolation. You host lavish receptions in your villa, trying to win over the Roman elite with your charm, your wit, and your intelligence. You speak to them in flawless Latin and Greek. You discuss philosophy with them. You are trying to present yourself not as a threat, but as a civilized and cultured partner. But it is a losing battle. They do not see a philosopher queen. They see a foreign mistress. They see a threat to the Roman way of life. They whisper behind your back. They invent slanderous stories about your decadent lifestyle, your sexual depravity. The more intelligent and powerful you prove yourself to be, the more they fear and resent you. Meanwhile, you must navigate the deadly currents of Roman politics. You watch as Caesar consolidates his power. He is made dictator for 10 years, then for life. He stacks the Senate with his own supporters. He wears a purple toga, the color of kings. He even allows a statue of you, depicted as the goddess Venus Genetrix, the divine ancestor of his own family, to be placed in a temple. This is an act of breathtaking arrogance that horrifies the traditional Roman elite. It is a callback to your own divine status as Isis in Egypt, but here in Rome, it is blasphemy. Whether Caesar truly intended to dissolve the Republic and declare himself king with you as his queen is the great unanswered question of his final years. But to the Roman senators, the evidence seems clear. He is becoming a monarch, and you are the foreign queen at his side. You are playing a very dangerous game. Your son Caesarion is with you, a constant living reminder of your connection to Caesar. Every day he remains in Rome, he is a symbol of everything the old Republican families fear, a future where the power of Rome is passed down not through Roman tradition, but through the bloodline of a foreign queen. You are trapped. You cannot leave Rome without offending Caesar and losing his protection. But the longer you stay, the more you become a symbol of his tyranny, the focal point for the hatred of his enemies. You are a queen in a gilded cage, watching as the man who holds the key becomes increasingly isolated, increasingly arrogant, and increasingly blind to the daggers that are being sharpened in the shadows of his own Senate.
You spend nearly 2 years in this Roman limbo, a queen in a golden cage. You watch as Caesar's power grows more absolute, and as the resentment of the old Republican senators hardens into a quiet, deadly conspiracy. You are playing the long game, waiting for him to solidify his rule, waiting for him to officially acknowledge your son, Caesarion, waiting for your moment. And then, on a single fateful afternoon, the Ides of March 44 BC, the entire game is overturned. You are in your villa across the Tiber when the news arrives, carried by panicked servants. Julius Caesar, the invincible dictator for life, the descendant of Venus, has been stabbed to death on the floor of the Senate by a group of men he considered his peers. It seems the Roman Senate has finally found a way to solve a political disagreement with a coordinated group project involving lots of sharp knives. In an instant, your entire world collapses. The foundation upon which you have built your life, your power, and your son's future has been violently shattered. Your most powerful ally and the father of your child is dead. You are a foreign queen, living in a city that largely despises you, a city that is now on the brink of total civil war. Your meticulously crafted life plan has just been violently and permanently canceled. This is another profound reason it sucks to be you. Your survival is perpetually tied to the life of a single, powerful man, and you live in a world where powerful men have a notoriously short life expectancy. The Assassins, a group of senators calling themselves the Liberators, led by the famously honorable Marcus Brutus, believed the people of Rome would hail them as heroes for restoring the Republic. They were wrong. The common people mostly just wanted the cheap grain, the grand public works, and the relative stability that Caesar had provided. It turns out that freedom is a much less popular concept when you're hungry. The city descends into a state of tense, dangerous chaos. The assassins control the Senate, but the streets are filled with Caesar's angry, grieving supporters, stirred into a frenzy by Caesar's loyal general, your old acquaintance from Egypt, Mark Antony. His funeral oration for Caesar turns the public mood definitively against the conspirators, igniting riots and forcing Brutus and his allies to eventually flee the city. You watch all of this from your villa, a prisoner of the chaos. You are in mortal danger. The men who murdered Caesar would have no qualms about murdering his foreign mistress and his unacknowledged half-barbarian son. You are a loose end, a living symbol of the tyranny they sought to destroy. The exact details of your flight from Rome are not recorded by the historians, who were far more interested in the power struggles of the Roman men. Whether you slipped away quietly in the night as soon as you heard the news, or waited for a few chaotic weeks to gauge the political winds before making your escape, we can only speculate. What is certain is that you had to get out. You now have a new problem. A new triumvirate of power is forming in Rome to hunt down Caesar's assassins, his loyal general, Mark Antony, another general named Lepidus, and Caesar's official heir, a sickly but brilliantly cunning teenager named Gaius Octavius, whom Caesar had adopted in his will and who now calls himself Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus, or as we know him, Octavian. This boy, Caesar's grandnephew, is now your direct and mortal rival. His claim to being Caesar's heir is based on a piece of paper. Your son's claim is based on blood. This makes your son, Caesarion, a direct and mortal threat to Octavian's legitimacy. Your child is no longer a trump card, he is a target. You escape Rome with your son. You leave behind the luxury, the politics, the whispers, and the hate. You sail back to Alexandria, the only place you are safe. But you are not returning in triumph. You are returning as a refugee, your great Roman gamble having ended in total disaster. A callback to your father's own journey, you have learned that relying on a single Roman patron is a fatal strategy. You return to a kingdom that is still weak, a court that is still treacherous, and a world that is once again descending into a massive civil war between powerful, ambitious Roman men. You have survived, but you are back where you started, only now you have a young son whose existence makes you a permanent enemy of the future master of Rome.
You are back in Alexandria, but the world has changed. The Roman Republic is dead, and a new power struggle has begun between Caesar's assassins and his avengers. For a few years, you exist in a state of tense neutrality, rebuilding your kingdom's wealth and raising your son, Caesarion, in the relative safety of your palace. You are a queen without a Roman patron, a dangerous position to be in. You watch from afar as Caesar's avengers, Mark Antony, Octavian, and Lepidus, hunt down and defeat his murderers at the Battle of Philippi. With the liberators gone, they carve up the Roman world between them like a holiday roast, and the entire wealthy, decadent, and strategically vital East, including Egypt, falls under the jurisdiction of one man, Mark Antony. It is now 41 BC. You receive a summons. A new, powerful Roman man wants to have a word with you. Mark Antony, now the undisputed master of the East, has invited you to meet him in the city of Tarsus in modern-day Turkey.
The official reason is to question you about your supposed lack of support during a recent war. The real reason is that Antony is planning a massive, ruinously expensive invasion of the Parthian Empire, the successor to the Persian Empire, and he desperately needs money. Your kingdom, with its overflowing granaries and legendary wealth, is the only place he can get it. This is a familiar situation. A powerful Roman warlord needs something you have. This is a Roman political shakedown, politely worded as an invitation. But you are no longer the desperate 21-year-old exile who arrived at Caesar's feet in a laundry bag. You are now in your late 20s, an experienced ruler, the undisputed queen of the richest nation in the Mediterranean. You understand power, and you understand powerful men. A callback to your first distant glimpse of Antony as a brash young cavalry officer in your father's court, you know he is not like the cold, calculating Caesar. Antony is larger than life. He is brilliant, bold, and charismatic, but he is also a man who loves luxury, feasting, drink, and grand theatrical gestures. He is a man who can be enchanted, so you decide not to go to him as a supplicant client queen. You will go to him as a goddess. Whether your famous entrance at Tarsus was a pre-planned masterpiece of psychological manipulation or a spontaneous act of flamboyant defiance from a queen determined not to appear as a mere subject, is a testament to your genius for political theater. You do not hurry to Tarsus. You make Antony wait, building the anticipation. He sits in the city's marketplace, expecting you to appear before him. Instead, you orchestrate one of the most spectacular entrances in history. You sail up the Cydnus River not in a simple transport ship, but in a magnificent golden barge. Its sails are a rich Tyrian purple. Its oars are plated in silver and move to the rhythm of flutes and lyres. You yourself are reclining on a canopied deck, dressed in the elaborate costume of the goddess Venus, or Aphrodite, her Greek equivalent. Your handmaidens are dressed as sea nymphs and graces, and young boys dressed as Cupids stand by your side fanning you. The entire barge is shrouded in clouds of expensive, exotic incense, its scent drifting over the city before the barge itself is even seen. The entire population of Tarsus, hearing of this spectacle, abandons the marketplace and runs to the riverbank to witness it. Antony, the master of the East, who had been waiting for you to come to him, is left sitting alone, completely upstaged. He invites you to dinner. You politely refuse, insisting that he, instead, should be your guest on your barge. He accepts. He is a master general, a hardened soldier who has survived countless battles, and he has just been completely outmaneuvered by a floating pageant. He is, of course, immediately smitten. That night, and for several nights following, you host him in a style of luxury he has only dreamed of. The food is exquisite, the wine is endless, the conversations are witty and intelligent. You match him drink for drink, story for story. You speak to him of politics and philosophy. You are not just a beautiful woman, you are his intellectual equal, a queen of immense power and culture. You have learned your lesson well. Your father paid for Roman support with gold. You tried to win Caesar's support with desperate, raw audacity. With Antony, you use a different weapon: overwhelming spectacle. You are not just asking for an alliance, you are demonstrating that you are a partner worthy of his ambition. You are showing him that you are not just a client queen to be commanded, you are a goddess whose favor must be won. It is another immense gamble. But as you watch Mark Antony, the most powerful man in the East, captivated by the world you have created around him, you know that your strategy is working. You have found your new Roman.
Your grand performance at Tarsus is a stunning success. Antony, captivated by your wit, wealth, and theatrical genius, agrees to the alliance. More than that, he agrees to follow you back to Alexandria for the winter of 4140 BC. This is a massive political victory. You have secured the loyalty of the most powerful man in the East, and you have brought him back to your city, under your influence,
and away from the prying eyes and political machinations of Rome. But this victory brings with it a new, exhausting, and incredibly demanding full-time job, keeping Mark Antony entertained. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. Your life is now a constant, draining two-act performance. By day, you are the Pharaoh of Egypt, the living goddess. By night, you are a Hellenistic socialite, the hard-partying partner of a Roman general. You must master both roles perfectly, because your survival depends on it. Your public persona for your Egyptian subjects is that of the new Isis. This is an obscure but vital part of your political identity. You appear at solemn religious festivals dressed in the sacred robes of the goddess, carrying the sistrum, a holy rattle. You participate in ancient rites, you consult with the powerful Egyptian priesthood, and you present yourself as the divine mother of your nation. Whether your adoption of the Isis persona was a deeply held personal faith or a masterful piece of political theater to win the devotion of your Egyptian subjects is impossible to know. Like all great rulers, your faith and your politics are likely inseparable. This role requires dignity, piety, and a deep reverence for tradition. Then, when the sun sets, the performance changes. You and Antony form an exclusive private club. You call it the Amimetobian, or the Inimitable Livers. This is the great historical fact of that famous winter. Your goal is to live a life of such extravagant, unparalleled pleasure that no one else in the world could possibly imitate it. Mostly, this involves a series of nightly feasts, drinking parties, and elaborate games that last until dawn. One night, you might host a dinner where the floor is covered in rose petals a foot deep. The next, you might fill the entire room with nets so you can feast as if you are under the sea. It is a performance of opulence designed to delight and overwhelm Antony, a man with a legendary appetite for excess. But it's not all formal banquets. You also indulge in simpler, more chaotic pleasures. You and Antony, the two most powerful people in the Eastern Mediterranean, would disguise themselves as common servants and wander the streets of Alexandria at night. You would play pranks on the locals, get into tavern arguments, and enjoy the thrill of anonymity. It is a very sophisticated form of international diplomacy. It is also incredibly dangerous, but it forges a bond of shared experience and adventure between you and Antony. This double life is utterly exhausting. You must constantly shift between two conflicting identities. In the morning, you might be meeting with priests to discuss the theological significance of the Nile flood. In the afternoon, you are in a tense meeting with your financial ministers, figuring out how to pay for Antony's ever-growing military needs. In the evening, you are debating Greek philosophy with him over wine. And late at night, you are running through the streets with him, hiding from the city watch. You are a goddess, a queen, an administrator, a lover, a philosopher, and a prankster, sometimes all in the same day.
The idyllic winter of inimitable living comes to an abrupt end. A storm has been brewing back in Italy, and news of it finally arrives in Alexandria, carried on the winds of political disaster. While you and Antony have been feasting and disguising yourselves as servants, his formidable wife, Fulvia, and his hot-headed brother, Lucius Antonius, have started a war against his great rival, Octavian. They have done this, they claim, in Antony's name, to protect his interests against Octavian's growing power. The result is a catastrophic failure known as the Perusian War. Octavian, with his usual cold, brutal efficiency, has crushed their forces. Fulvia is now in exile, and Italy is on the brink of another full-blown civil war between the two remaining triumvirs. Antony, your lover and protector, must leave you. He must return to Rome to clean up the mess his own family has made. Suddenly, the comfortable, intoxicating world of Alexandria evaporates. You are once again a queen watching her Roman patrons sail away to deal with a Roman problem, a deeply unsettling callback to the day Caesar left you to hunt down his own enemies. You are left behind. You have his love, you believe,
But love is not a political currency in Rome. You have given birth to his twins, Alexander Helios and Cleopatra Selene, more living symbols of your union, more potential heirs, and more potential targets. But their existence means nothing if Antony cannot secure his position in the treacherous landscape of Roman politics. You spend months in a state of suspended animation, waiting for news. This is another miserable reality of your life. You are one of the most powerful rulers in the world, yet your fate is being decided in another country, in a series of backroom deals between men who view your entire kingdom as a strategic asset and a personal piggy bank. You have no say in the negotiations. You are a variable in their political equation, not a participant at the table. Your only power is to wait, to manage your own kingdom, and to hope that Antony's ambition and his affection for you outweighs the immense political pressure he is now facing. Then, the news arrives. It is worse than you could have possibly imagined. Antony and Octavian have not gone to war. They have reconciled. To seal their renewed alliance and present a unified front to the Roman people, they have signed a new treaty. And to cement this political bond with something stronger than a mere promise, Antony has agreed to a marriage. He has married Octavia, the beautiful, virtuous, and politically impeccable older sister of his great rival, Octavian. It is a brilliant political move. It calms the tensions in Rome, it solidifies the triumvirate, and it presents Antony as a respectable Roman statesman, a man dedicated to healing the republic, not consorting with foreign queens. The news is a cold, sharp knife in your heart. Whether your primary reaction was one of personal romantic betrayal or one of cold, pragmatic political fury is a secret lost to the silence of your palace. It was, almost certainly, both. Antony, the man who lived with you as a partner, the father of your children, has publicly and politically replaced you with the sister of his greatest enemy, Octavian. He has chosen Rome over you. He has chosen political stability over your alliance. You are now the other woman, the exotic Eastern queen, a political liability he has had to discard to secure his standing in the Roman world. You are humiliated. You are isolated. You are a queen who has been publicly spurned. Every enemy you have in the court at Alexandria, every noble who still resents your power, now sees a queen whose Roman protector has abandoned her. Your position, which seemed so secure just a few months ago, is now dangerously exposed. You have made the same mistake twice. You bet everything on the loyalty of a single powerful Roman man, only to discover that for them, political necessity will always outweigh personal affection. You are left alone in your magnificent palace with your children who bear his name and the chilling realization that in the great game of Roman power, you are not a queen or a goddess. You are just a foreign entanglement to be managed, pacified, or, if necessary, erased.
You spend the next few years in a state of political Cold War. Antony is in Athens with his new Roman wife, Octavia, playing the part of a respectable Roman general. You are in Alexandria, raising your twins by him and your older son by Caesar, governing your kingdom and waiting. You are a queen, a goddess, and a spurned lover, a combination that makes you both powerful and profoundly dangerous. You know Antony. You know his appetites, his ambitions, and his deep-seated resentment for his young, clever, and irritatingly successful rival, Octavian. You know that his respectable Roman marriage is a political necessity, not a passion, and you know he will need your money again. So you wait. Your patience is rewarded. After several years of being a respectable Roman husband, Antony's grand project, the one for which he sacrificed your alliance, fails spectacularly. His long-planned invasion of the Parthian Empire is a catastrophic disaster. He marches his legions deep into enemy territory, is outmaneuvered, and is forced into a humiliating and deadly retreat through the mountains of Armenia in winter. He loses tens of thousands of men to battle, starvation, and frostbite.
Humiliated, broke, and politically weakened, he does what any sensible Roman general in his position would do. He runs back to you, the only person in the world with a treasury deep enough and a will strong enough to fund his next bad idea. He arrives back in Alexandria in 37 BC not as the triumphant conqueror of the East, but as a defeated man in need of rescue. This time you hold all the cards. You welcome him back, but on your terms. You will fund his armies. You will supply his campaigns. You will be his partner. But the pretense is over. He will be your partner, here, in Alexandria, in your world. The political marriage to Octavia in Rome becomes a distant, irrelevant fiction. Your alliance is renewed, and this time it is absolute. A few years later, in 34 BC, after a smaller, more successful campaign in Armenia, Antony decides he needs to celebrate a victory to restore his reputation. But he does not return to Rome to request a formal triumph from the Senate. He knows Octavian would never grant it. Instead, he does something unprecedented, something that will shatter the final remnants of his relationship with Rome. He decides to hold his own version of a Roman triumph, the most sacred military parade in the streets of Alexandria. This is like a foreign general winning a small battle and then demanding a victory parade through the heart of Rome itself. The Senate is not just unamused, they are profoundly insulted. The ceremony is a masterpiece of political theater, designed by you. This is the great historical event that will become known as the Donations of Alexandria. You and Antony preside over the celebration, seated on enormous golden thrones, placed on a silver stage in the city's gymnasium. You are dressed in the sacred robes of the goddess Isis. Antony is dressed as the god Dionysus. At the climax of the ceremony, he grandly and publicly distributes the kingdoms of the East to you and your children. He proclaims you Queen of Kings, the ruler over Egypt, Cyprus, and parts of Syria. He declares your son by Caesar, Caesarion, to be the true, legitimate son of Julius Caesar and names him King of Kings. He then names your infant twins by him rulers of other vast territories. Your toddler son, Alexander Helios, is named the new king of Armenia, a kingdom Antony has barely conquered. The boy is probably more interested in his new toy chariot. It is a magnificent political statement and a public relations disaster of epic proportions. Whether Antony's actions in Alexandria were the result of a man hopelessly blinded by love, a calculated political decision to establish his own independent Hellenistic empire in the East, or simply a series of catastrophic misjudgments by a man under immense pressure, remains one of the great debates of his downfall. But for you, it is the ultimate victory. A callback to the day you were named co-heir with your brother, you are now being declared the supreme monarch of the East, and your children are being named its future rulers. Your great dynastic dream is being proclaimed before the world. But even in your moment of triumph, you are smart enough to know what this means. By holding a Roman triumph in a foreign city, and by giving away territories that Rome considered its own, Antony has committed an act of political suicide. He has provided Octavian with the perfect propaganda weapon. Back in Rome, Octavian can now paint Antony not as a respected triumvir, but as a decadent traitor, a Roman general who has gone native, a puppet enchanted and controlled by a wicked foreign queen, you. You have won Antony, completely and finally, but in doing so, you have made a final, unwinnable war with Rome, and with its cold, clever master, Octavian, absolutely inevitable.
The Donations of Alexandria is the final straw. Back in Rome, Octavian, a master of propaganda, now has the ultimate weapon. He seizes Antony's will and reads it aloud to the Senate. In it, Antony reaffirms the donations, recognizes your son Caesarion as Caesar's true heir, and, most damningly, requests to be buried not in Rome, but beside you in Alexandria. The outrage is perfectly manufactured. Octavian now has the political capital he needs. He convinces the Senate to declare war. But, in a final, brilliant twist of the knife, he does not declare war on Antony, his fellow Roman. He declares war on you. Congratulations, you have been officially promoted from political liability to existential foreign threat to the Roman Republic. It is a very prestigious and very fatal honor.
The final war of the Roman Republic begins. It is your war. The fate of the world will be decided in a great naval battle off the coast of Greece, near a place called Actium, in 31 BC. Your fleet, combined with Antony's, is massive, but Octavian's admiral, the brilliant Marcus Agrippa, is a superior naval tactician. The battle is a disaster. It is chaotic, bloody, and from the start, it goes badly for you. Seeing that the fight is lost, you make a decision. You signal your own squadron of ships to break through the line and flee the battle, heading back to Egypt to regroup. Antony, seeing your ship depart, abandons his own flagship and a large part of his army and follows you with a few ships. It is a catastrophic military defeat and a public relations nightmare. Antony, the great Roman general, is seen abandoning his men to follow a foreign queen. You return to Alexandria with a fraction of your fleet and a broken man. The year that follows is one of slow, encroaching dread. You are trapped. Octavian's legions slowly advance, conquering the cities that were once loyal to you. You try to negotiate. You offer to abdicate in favor of your children. Octavian does not reply. He does not want a treaty. He wants total victory. He wants Egypt. He wants you. In the summer of 30 BC, Octavian's army arrives at the gates of Alexandria. Your remaining forces, demoralized and seeing the inevitable, begin to desert. Antony hears a false report that you have already taken your own life. In a fit of Roman grief and despair, he falls on his own sword. The attempt is, like many of his late career decisions, a bit clumsy. He is brought to you bleeding and dying as you have barricaded yourself in the grand mausoleum you built for just this occasion. He dies in your arms. You are now completely and utterly alone, your last and greatest ally gone. Octavian's soldiers enter the city. They capture you. You are now his prisoner. He speaks to you, offering you assurances of good treatment. But you are a student of Roman politics, a callback to the lessons that have defined your life. You know what he truly wants. He wants to keep you alive. He wants to take you back to Rome and parade you through the streets in his triumph, walking in chains behind his chariot. He wants you, the great queen of the Nile, the seductress of Caesar and Antony, to be his ultimate trophy, a living symbol of his victory and the subjugation of your kingdom. You, a queen to the very end, decide to decline his invitation. Your final act of defiance is to choreograph your own exit. You ask for permission to visit Antony's tomb to pay your last respects. Then you return to your chambers. You bathe and dress in your finest royal regalia, the robes of Isis. And then, according to the legend that will echo through eternity, a servant smuggles in a basket of figs. Hidden beneath the leaves is an asp, an Egyptian cobra. The method of your death is not random. It is a final, powerful, and obscure symbol. The cobra is the sacred animal of the pharaohs, the symbol of divine royalty, and the goddess Isis, the very deity you claimed to embody. You are not dying as a defeated Roman captive. You are dying as a true Egyptian pharaoh, choosing a sacred death over a profane humiliation. The end comes not with a scream, but with a quiet, regal stillness. You lie on your golden couch, dressed as a goddess, the deadly serpent at your breast. The Roman guards burst in too late, finding only you and your two loyal handmaidens, also dead, having followed their queen into the great unknown. You have lost your kingdom, you have lost your lover, you will lose your children, for you know Octavian will not let Caesar's son live. You have lost everything, but in this final, silent act, you have won the only victory that was left to you. You have denied your enemy his triumph. You have seized control of your own narrative, transforming your defeat into a timeless legend of love, loss, and defiant death. Your story, a life spent navigating the brutal, insane rules of men and power, is over, but your myth has just begun.